I watched through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my penthouse office as another company moved into Anderson Tower. Not just any company, my parents' company, Morgan and Brooks Consulting. They'd taken the lease without realizing who owned the building. Without knowing their unstable daughter was about to become their landlord. "Ms. Anderson," my assistant's voice came through the intercom, "your parents' firm has begun their move-in. Would you like the security feed on your screens?" "Put it up," I said, sipping my morning coffee from a mug worth more than my father's watch. The monitors flickered to life, showing multiple angles of the lobby. There they were, Dad directing movers with his usual authority, Mom fussing over the placement of their company logo. They looked exactly the same as they had 3 years ago, the night they'd thrown me out. No daughter of mine is going to live here without a stable career path. Dad's words still echoed in my head. "Law firm or consulting, those are your choices. This real estate development fantasy ends now." I'd left that night with nothing but my laptop and a business plan they'd refused to read. Now at 28 I owned half the commercial real estate in the business district. Anderson Industries had become the fastest-growing property development company in the city, though I'd kept my identity as CEO carefully hidden. The lease documents they signed, I asked my assistant, did they notice the owner's name? "No, Ms. Anderson. They dealt with our shell company. As far as they know, they're renting from Global Properties Management." I smiled, remembering how many times they'd bragged about Morgan and Brooks moving to the prestigious Anderson Tower. If only they knew the building carried my name, not because I'd taken my father's legacy, but because I'd built my own. My phone buzzed, a text from my sister. "Mom and Dad are so excited about the new office. They keep talking about how it proves they were right to push us toward real careers." I didn't respond. Jennifer had chosen the path they wanted, straight to law school, straight to a corporate firm, straight to the life they'd planned. I'd chosen to be unstable. "Ms. Anderson," my assistant called again, "your father is asking to meet with the building owner. He wants to discuss some premium upgrades to their floor." "Schedule it for next week," I said. "Let them get settled first. I want them to really feel at home before they learn who their landlord is." I turned to the wall of awards behind my desk. Developer of the Year, 30 under 30, Real Estate Visionary. Awards I'd accepted wearing a mask, maintaining the mystery of the reclusive CEO who'd transformed the city's skyline. "Also," I added, "have maintenance adjust their office temperature 2 degrees too warm. And make sure their elevator stops at every floor on the way up." "Petty revenge, boss?" my assistant chuckled. "No," I smiled, watching my father argue with the movers through the security feed. "Just teaching a lesson about stability. After all, there's nothing less stable than a tenant who's annoyed their landlord." The irony wasn't lost on me. The building they thought proved their success would actually prove mine. They just didn't know it yet. 1 week later, I watched my parents enter the executive conference room on the top floor. Dad straightened his tie nervously. This meeting with the mysterious owner of Anderson Industries had taken days to arrange. "They're complaining about the temperature again," my assistant reported, hiding a smile. "And Mr. Morgan seems particularly upset about the elevator stopping at every floor." "How tragic," I murmured, adjusting my designer suit. 3 years ago I'd left their house in jeans and a hoodie. Today I was wearing an outfit that cost more than their first month's rent. "Ready?" my assistant asked. I nodded, watching through the one-way glass as Mom fidgeted with her phone, probably updating her country club friends about meeting the prestigious building owner. The conference room door opened. "Mr. and Mrs. Morgan? The owner will see you now." I walked in, heels clicking against marble, enjoying the moment their expressions shifted from professional anticipation to shocked recognition. "Hello, Mom, Dad," I said calmly, taking my seat at the head of the table. "I believe you wanted to discuss some building upgrades?" Mom's hand flew to her throat. Dad's face went through several shades of red. "Sarah," he finally managed. "What are you doing here?" "I own here," I replied simply. "Anderson Industries, Anderson Tower, Anderson Development Group, all mine. Though I'm surprised you didn't notice the name. You were so proud of moving into prestigious Anderson Tower." "This is impossible," Mom whispered. You were just playing with real estate ideas." "No, Mother. I was building an empire while you were building walls around your definition of success." I opened a folder. Now about those upgrades you wanted to discuss. Wait, Dad interrupted, his business facade cracking. You're our landlord? I'm everyone's landlord. This building, the one across the street, the new development downtown. I own them all. Remember when you said I needed a stable career? Well, I have one. I stabilize billion-dollar properties. Mom was frantically texting, probably trying to verify my claims. But the mysterious CEO of Anderson Industries, the masks at award ceremonies, was me. Is me. I smiled. Surprise. Why didn't you tell us? Dad demanded, his voice rising. Tell you. I laughed. Like you told me to get out? Like you told me real estate development wasn't a real career? Or like you told everyone I was having a quarter-life crisis when I refused to join your consulting firm? The silence was heavy. Through the windows the city skyline sparkled, my skyline. About your office complaints, I continued professionally. The temperature issues and elevator stops? Consider them a reminder of stability. Your comfort depends entirely on your landlord's goodwill. You've been torturing us on purpose? Mom gasped. Teaching you, I corrected. Like you tried to teach me about real careers. How does it feel to be on the other side of someone else's definition of proper behavior? Dad stood up suddenly. This is ridiculous. We're your parents. No, I said quietly. You're my tenants. And your lease has some very interesting clauses about respect for building management. I pressed a button and my assistant entered with a stack of documents. Now, I smiled, shall we discuss those upgrades you wanted? I believe you mentioned premium carpeting. That will require a significant rent increase, of course. The rent increase will be 40%, I said, sliding the papers across the table. Unless, of course, you'd prefer to relocate. Though you might find that difficult. Difficult? Dad's voice cracked. Why? Because I own every A-class office building in the business district. And my acquisition of the B-class properties closes next week. I pulled up a map on the conference room screen showing my properties in red. The business district looked like it was bleeding. Mom had stopped texting, her phone forgotten as she stared at the empire her unstable daughter had built. You can't do this, she whispered. We're family. Family. I stood up, walking to the window. 3 years ago I sat at your dinner table with a business plan. A vision for transforming this city's real estate market. You didn't just dismiss it, you gave me an ultimatum. Get a real job or get out. We were trying to protect you, Dad protested. No, you were trying to control me. To force me into your tiny box of acceptable careers. I turned back to them. Do you know what happened the night you kicked me out? They stayed silent. I slept in my car in this building's construction site. I was supervising the foundation work and I swore that one day I'd build something so big you couldn't ignore it. Something that would make you question every assumption you'd ever made about success. The mysterious so everyone's been talking about, Mom said quietly. The one who never shows her face. Was the daughter you called unstable. Every time you bragged about moving to Anderson Tower, you were actually bragging about my success. You just didn't know it. Dad slumped in his chair, looking suddenly old. Why reveal yourself now? Because you need to understand something. I sat back down. Success isn't just about following predetermined paths. It's about having the courage to build your own. I pressed the intercom. Send in the packages. My assistant entered with 3 boxes, placing one in front of each of us. Open them, I said. Inside each box was a framed copy of my original business plan, the one they'd refused to read 3 years ago. But now each milestone was marked as completed, with dates and valuations. Your lease, I continued, will remain at its current rate. The elevator will stop functioning normally. The temperature will be fixed. Just like that. Mom asked suspiciously. Just like that. Because unlike you, I don't believe in using financial pressure to force people into behaving how I want. I stood up again, signaling the end of the meeting. Oh, and one more thing. The homeless shelter I'm building downtown? It's going to be called the Morgan Center for New Beginnings. Why? Dad asked. Because everyone deserves a chance to start over. Even parents who thought they knew best. I headed for the door, then turned back. Family dinner is at 7 on Sunday. My private dining room on the top floor. You want us to come to dinner? Mom's voice trembled. Yes. Because success isn't just about proving people wrong. Sometimes it's about being strong enough to show them how to be right. As they gathered their things looking shell-shocked, I added one final touch. And Mom, you can tell your country club friends that your daughter isn't unstable anymore. She's just unbelievably successful. In my private office, I watched them leave through the security feeds. They walked differently now, smaller, humbled, perhaps finally understanding that stability comes in many forms. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister. Mom just told me everything. Why didn't you tell me? I typed back, come to dinner Sunday. I'll show you what being unstable really looks like. Bring your law firm's lease, I own their building too. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about punishment. It's about showing people that their greatest fears about your future were actually the foundation of your greatest success. And sometimes, just sometimes, it's about making the elevator stop at every single floor.